Now, when I want to talk about more, think about 369 is also key to the universe. It's not dealing with just the trilateral platforms. You got to evaluate through the formations of the actual geometric tone itself. You take several platforms, because I have one picture I sent to you, and incubine them into one, like Metatron. Think about Metatron. Now add those platforms and encirculate it like a circle. Just the platforms itself that deal with the pyramids are one part of something so vast, humans have no idea what they're about to get, what they have in store for them.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 49. Blue, how are you doing?
I'm good today, Mike.
Hey, we're going to have a big show today in 49. What are we going to talk about today?
One of the things we'll be discussing is about Nikola Tesla. There are 1 out of 2 ovation codes. Number A, infinite energy and the productive equality of moving Tesla arc terms and underground magnetism fields. The priority effect of past tense, of how he had acclimated this, and something that's going to be coming into the future from the same very technologies itself. How did he get it? Where did it come from? What's the priority that his field needs to take for? And what does the signature coding evaluation come for as well through Tesla that already is on a current stance?
You know, that sounds like fascinating stuff because, well, you know, I've always thought Tesla was a genius, and then I think Elon Musk is Tesla reincarnate, but we'll get to that in a minute here. Hey, before we get going here, please make sure you go ahead and click like, subscribe, follow, click on notifications, all those fun buttons. This way you're notified when we post new material. And you can always reach out to us on the socials. I want to thank the people who sent some questions last week, and feel free to go ahead and just reach out to us anytime. We're happy to respond. Blue, let's get right into it.
Obviously, yes. Nikola Tesla, who was an incredible activator that was into many different types of secrets. And one of these main secrets had to deal with flight and anti-gravity propulsion systems. Now, in 1928, he patented a flying machine similar to a helicopter and an airplane. Now, what gets very peculiar about this type of machine is it looks like an extraterrestrial UFO. Now, if we're going to go into a timeline definition sphere, we have already self-evaluated that certain other elites that are currently or were already time travelers. Nikola Tesla is considered a time indexer point, and from another dimensional speed. He had help and assistance as well. So the type of intellect that he created was something on a fundamental scale from certain ET beings and higher development streams for where his calibrated stream had come from. Think about actually elevating a system that would take away wires. It would take away the current electricity modes itself, and it would core replace it with what's coming from underneath the actual planet. Not many people know that there is a very high electromagnetic field that plays vital roles underneath the planet's gridding system. And we already know about the hollow earth. We already know that there are many tunnels, many civilizations, many secrets underneath that people are not aware of. Now, if you think about 369, what Nikola Tesla had talked about before, geometrics, learning a symmetry, learning how to reevaluate things. 369, you think about the trilateral platforms. Tri, 3, 3, 6, 6, 9, 3, 3, 3. There's an equilibrium between an actual platform itself that can coordinate electromagnetic fields and propulsion streams. And if we go back to the pyramids, that's not far off.
You know, like I said pre-show there, I always thought Tesla was one of the smartest human beings ever on the planet here. And I had mentioned I felt that way about Elon Musk in our current time here. And what you talked about, I may be experimenting with some things. We've talked in the past about the getting electricity directly from the ground. There's a whole movement now with agriculture where you use the electrification from the ground with copper wiring to enhance your growth, to enhance your crops. And I might be experimenting with that. Yeah, in my free time, right? It's amazing to me that Tesla still stands today. We still talk about him today. We're not alone in this. My question is you had mentioned that trilateral, that 369, and I've often thought about this. Is there any relation to that triangular shape and what we see on the dollars, the Federal Reserve notes, and what we've seen from the Masons with the G in the middle and so forth? Is there any relation between that triangular structure, 369, and things that are used by the government and those in power?
No, that just means that a higher agenda speed to the pyramids itself. Everything has to do with equal standard that motivates into one, but that's a little different. But they have on the dollar sign just represents something that you got to think about Egypt. You got to think about also how they had civilizations and they were maintained. Now you got to think about the deities, the mainframes of old, the gods and goddesses. And you think about the masonry and the G symbol. It goes more into that type of term. 369 goes into geometrics and the trilateral platforms itself on a physical stance and an electromagnetic field priority stream. It also goes through the numerical dimensions and how things can be manipulated and possessed through that. When you're dealing with a dollar sign, you're just dealing with something that's representing some type of order itself.
You had mentioned something before, and I saw in some of the pre-show notes and the photos you had sent that I'm going to put up here and post. This UFO-like structure, this aircraft that I can imagine if he rolled that out back in the day, people's minds would have just exploded. I mean, this was before they had major jet aircraft or big rockets and so forth. So to be able to conceive that would just not happen. Is this technology? Was this stolen from him at his death? I know the government went in and seized a lot of his papers on his death, and he died a pauper in a poor apartment because the government was, everyone was tamping him down and trying to prevent him from moving forward. Is it possible that we've used and are using those same technologies and plans and so forth that he had in regards to this UFO type craft? Is it possible our government is using that today?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of affiliated sources, too, that are assisting in maintaining a next management system.
Is it possible that some of our enemies or some people we perceive as our enemies are using that same technology? Maybe they've intercepted it, maybe they've stolen it, or maybe they just had it as well.
There's similar technology on a reproductive scale through electromagnetism or higher electromagnetic fields. Their propulsion streams to CERN. And there are some negative attributes to CERN from programmers. So yes and no. Yes to the fact that they could incubate that type of technology on a negative priority stream. No, because the priority streams need to evaluate to a positive term for the near future. So we're able to have the type of electricity we deserve. And we're not dealing with the negative inputs.
Yeah, I feel that every month when I pay that electric bill, especially here in the South when it can get very hot and you like to run the air conditioning in the summer. Are these craft, are they capable of interdimensional travel as well?
Yes, obviously, anything that a priority stream goes for that deals with anti-gravity and propulsions does go through that. This is just one key to many others that are in self-evaluation terms. Think about what we had said about Germany before, what we had said about other countries and their types of aircraft. This is just one of many other types that were given to mankind or a recon through symmetric stance. When we're dealing with time travelers, obviously, and nexus beings. Now, when I want to talk about more, think about 369 is also key to the universe. It's not dealing with just the trilateral platforms. You got to evaluate through the formations of the actual geometric tone itself. You take several platforms, because I have one picture I sent to you, and incubine them into one, like Metatron. Think about Metatron. Now add those platforms and encirculate it like a circle. Just the platforms itself that deal with the pyramids are one part of something so vast, humans have no idea what they're about to get, what they have in store for them.
You know, it's always fascinating to me, and I find it very gratifying when I see things on TV, when I click around, and I do watch TV on occasion, and I see things. Today, I saw, and I mentioned, I think Elon's the smartest guy on the planet right now. I saw a statement by Elon Musk saying that AI, artificial intelligence, there will be an artificial intelligence that is smarter than any human being on the planet within a year. Do you believe that?
Well, in an evaluated term, yes, that can speed up on priority stream. But in order for things to be equal and not overboard, humans have to learn and understand what AI is and have a cutoff point when too much is too much. Now, it just goes into what Tesla about, it's just certain things he deals with, and maybe visualize that stance for what humans could deal with. The inventions of the particle beam to radar, the electric car, he dealt with robotics, remote controlled drones. The mental model solutions to problems, to clarity of mind, and he could visualize individual parts of machines or mechanisms in numerical dimensions, 3 different types. Hint, hint, 369 again, here we go. Then run simulations in his head and check for wear and tear. You know, because it is similar to Elon Musk. He goes through a lot too. You know, maybe we are thinking that a possibility that a partial signet or fragment of this being is interlocked into him in the clarity of that mode. A partial. Because I'm going to be honest with mankind, I'm already in coordinates with someone who is supposedly Nikola Tesla in the time-traveling indexer from another dimension. He's not from this sector, he's from another one. And he looks just like him, and he has the mode, the mindset, and he works with someone else. They are already creating different types of Tesla technologies and stuff out there. He's not the only one. There are a couple others too. There are partial fragments of Nikola Tesla coming into this timeline.
Wow, that sounds exciting. Hey, I saw you had made a note here about China. How does China play into this?
Say China. 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 China.
Think about a floating city. Background in 2015. Several people in certain parts and areas of China itself had spotted what looks like a huge city floating in the air, in the sky, and there was clouds around it. You know, think about how the eclipse was evaluated. They had clouds around it. You only could see it through those clouds. This gets interesting. Now, when they had made this video, they already think about, oh, maybe it's a parallel dimension. Maybe it's something from NASA itself. Maybe it's something to cue terms of events to motivate for the next stage, and they're going to put something on a higher to lower term. And we're not far off when talking about the eclipse. We're hiding and evaluated, or we're hiding something that really is there, but we're seeing something else, or it's coming into peripheral vision. This, as well as many other things, there have been monuments that have been seen in the sky. People have noticed buildings before. People have noticed actual islands or floating rocks. It's not common, but when this happens, it either means that they have governments assisting to anti-gravity systems, kind of what's similar to Nikola Tesla's talking about, and actually having some type of heaven on earth or heavens on earth, but off of it. Something of a much more advanced tenorary code than what it is. People thought it was hollow projected. If it was a hologram, it was a good darn well. I've never seen a hologram like that, to be honest with you. And floating cities can be maintained. They can become reality. If Elon Musk can bring his star units in and out of reposition, and they already have anti-gravity formational codes and drones and other things, and things that could just sit there in one stance, even have military stuff. They can do that for structures itself. And that's something that definitely will be considered.
You know, it's amazing to me because you could look back and find old videos of, you know, our Air Force and so forth testing models of UFO-like structures and so forth, like back in the 50s and the 40s and stuff. A lot of that is when we intercepted a lot of that technology from Germany after World War II. And we talked about that on a previous show. And that reminds me of two things here real quick. One, I just want to remind everybody that you can always go back to a previous show and click on that topic. Click on the little blue numbers right next to it, and that'll take you right to that topic. So if you want to go back to previous shows and just isolate one topic that we've talked about, because we always talk about things like Tesla and unidentified flying objects and UAPs and all this stuff. The second thing I want to talk about is your wonderful hat, your wonderful shirt. Lean forward a little bit. Show everybody your hat again there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's your, explain to everybody what that logo is on your hat.
Space Force logo. It's the ET department's logo. Represents Area 51 and the entities that evaluate through that term, the starseeds.
Awesome.
And if you all want to bullshit with me, go ahead. But we are very much real. There are diplomated stances of starseed generators who work through Space Force and other cooperative military agenda speeds to maintaining things on a higher diameter code. And it just doesn't mean just that. It means producing something and maybe widening the perspective of many eyes of the paranormal itself.
You can take part. You can be part of the show. Go ahead and check out some of the things we have to offer. We do have some people have been asking for it, so we went ahead and did it. I resisted it for a while, but because the main thing here is the message. It's not about a shirt. It's not about a hat. The main thing is the message that we try to deliver here on a consistent basis. So, but if you want to take part, you like the shirt that Blue and I are wearing, you like the hat, we got a bunch of other stuff available. You'll find a link there in the comments. Real quick here, because I know we got to move on. The city that you're talking about, like in China, is this something that can disappear and reappear, or is this something that's in a permanent fixed place?
Well, I mean, they thought it was parallel universe. They think it's Project Bluebeam test, like conspiracy all through NASA, New Age religion type of deal. The proactive stream is they can evaluate and they can cover a lot of things. And even if that was maintained and covered or is projected as a physical hologram screen or something to motivate, it can be moved. It can be moved upwards. Anti-gravity propulsion streams, especially through cities and other substructures, or even through something that is the region itself, they can either hide, self-camouflage, or they don't have to be on one spot whatsoever. It may not have been seen again, because they had tested it. And again, may have very well been some type of test. And see where that will go for mankind in the future. But this is an eye-opener, people. I wouldn't consider this more or less paranormal, to more or less it's government obtained and something that may have been assisted through the paranormal.
Crazy stuff. And I know we can talk about this forever here, but we got to move on. I know we have a bunch of things we want to talk about today. Are you ready to move on to the SCP Foundation?
Absolutely. SCP-160, the Predator drone. Now, okay, it's interesting with this type of thing. We just talked about drones. Is this particular drone was an unknown descent. Approximately 1.1 meter its width point, similar to a model of, they're not going to tell you from some sort of corporation. They had a lot of things. It has no identifying marks, no manufacturing labels. We have no idea where it come from. Visual inspection resigns of scratches and other superficial damage, indicating that prior identifying labels may have been removed. So that means the evaluated terms, once they have gotten this, the foundation itself, this type of thing had already been taken out of repositional code, so they cannot find out what to do with it. They have other types of equipment out there that they do and deal with on a paranormal scale where they hide that. And regardless, it operates continuously and is autonomous from any identified control source and exhibits behavior similar to that of a predatory bird. It has a promiscuous thing, so it actually has an incisor, and it will actively prey and hunt small rodents and small animals. And upon locating the prey, it will inject a type of thing inside of it and impale it. So it has a metallic brisket that impales it, and it liquefies certain things in the internal modes of the actual being itself. It will liquefy the organs once the proboscis enters it. Now, with humans, it doesn't go after humans, fortunately. But humans have been attacked by these things before. As far as we know, there's only been one discovered, but that doesn't mean that they have several others out there. And they do have that one in captivity, and they have to feed it to a certain small animals or whatever to satiate it.
This is fascinating to me because the first thing I thought of was a military application. I can see this coming. I won't be surprised if it's already in effect. If I see something like that, is it safe to say that it is government or military because this one is actually contained?
Well, if it is, that would be considering that an unknown quality. An unknown quality is some type of government or military or some other type of evaluated stream. And when I mean by evaluated stream, I mean by hyper advanced civilizations or maybe other things from another dimension itself that was brought here. Remember, we had discussed about this person who had seemed to have disappeared. He owned this animal sanctuary. We talked about last SCP, and he had kept that for humankind to take care of. I mean, dimensioners can come and go. Nexus beings, time travelers, this, that, they don't have to stay in one represented area. And the fact that this has a hollow inner earth and it has numerical portals that can go in between the dimensions, it's just a hop and a skip away.
You know, I've often, you can relate this to guns, I guess, because they can be used for good or evil. You can use this with fire. It can be used for good or evil. So this is a type thing I can see. And anyone can go out there and buy some sort of drone nowadays. They're available. My only question remaining with the drones is we've seen hints of this at the border. They're using drones to actually fly drugs over the border wall and so forth and deliver. Is it possible that evil forces or forces that are against us are using a technology like this Predator drone and adapting it, or no?
This Predator drone is different. It's sentient. So it's sentient and that's like an animal and it will eat other animals. So that's different. The type of drones that they would cooperate through the border are just self-evaluators to move from one speed to another. This thing's more paranormal. This thing would actually act like an animal itself.
What's the next SCP we're going to talk about?
SCP-180, Identity Thieving Hat. appears to be a hat or other form of headwear or hair accessory. Any individual who places the hat on their head will have their identity stolen from them, literally stolen by the hat. This effects cause the original host to be completely unrecognizable from its familiar term that it's in, and they could alternate to any type of form. Individuals observing a subject who has had their identity stolen will only be able to vaguely describe features of the individual, such as their hair, eye color, skin tone, clothing, but will not be able to recognize the identity of the subject. Host subjects are unable to convince others of their identity. This effect lasts until it has selected a new host.
You know, the picture you sent me has this cute little dog wearing this hat, and it says it's actually a 33-year-old man. Is there more than one of these hats out there, or are people swapping identities unbeknownst to us?
And not that I know of, no. As far as I know, they only have one in hand. And when it was found, they evacuated it because of the switchovers. Now, what gets interesting, though, with SCP-180 is when they had stolen the identity of a host subject and they're placed upon another subject's head, the first identity of the subject, the first host, is imprinted onto the second subject. It's possible not only for people, but it's, like I said, it's for animals. And it's for inanimate objects as well. It doesn't just affect humans.
Is the person who assumes that identity or animal who assumes that identity, are they also privy to some of the mental capacity of that person? Memories, thoughts, things they know, knowledge?
I believe so. And it's just, it gets weird because when you're alternating effect, some of that engram goes into the other host itself.
You know, it's amazing because I talked about the show I've been watching recently, and I'm all caught up with it. I don't know if there's going to be any more episodes or not, Resident Alien. And when he assumes when the main character assumes the identity of a human through just a tiny piece of their DNA, it's amazing to me that he knew some of the things but didn't know everything. So I understand that's a gray thing. Is there anything I need to fear? If I see somebody wearing this little hat, do I have to be worried?
No, and like I said, the hat could be alternated into other different types of headwear or accessories. Something like this could be managed on a good term, I guess, for added camouflage. Even something that could be maintained through clothing modules or the actual interface itself of the priority stream. But for now, it's best for them to evaluate and see what could be a good causeway for this. It's not considered dangerous. It's just a little confusing for those who try to find the identity, which is not.
I still crack up over this picture because I could just picture all the innocent people, a little old lady putting a little hat on her dog, and all that. I could just see that. That's amazing. What a concept for a movie. And again, Hollywood. Well, I don't like Hollywood, but anybody who's interested in a movie, just make sure you credit us with these ideas, okay? What's the next SCP we're going to talk about?
Yes, SCP-307, Class Keter, Carnivorous Ivy. It gets interesting. We got to think about a certain, the movie of the Ivy lady from one of those movies, I believe, from Batman. She had dealt with those similar plants itself and had abilities, but touch her, you get poisoned. That's it. You think about this type of plant. It's not regular ivy. It's purple, and it is a growing inner wave phase that could create math problems. They grow in directions of where certain replicated beings would incline onto them. So if you get like insects or other some type of beings, little biopsis codes on these plants, they won't dissolve them. They won't harm them. You start getting things that are a bit bigger, that's where we start having the issue. That's when they start dissolving these beings. And they cause a lot of issues.
You know, it's amazing to me because I look back. For a little time, I lived in the state of Georgia for a little while, and they have this plant that's taken over a lot of areas in Georgia, and it's called kudzu. And it's very similar to the ivy. It's more like a vine type plant, but it actively grows and kills off anything in its path. It'll just choke it out, you know, with the root systems and so forth. But I take from what you're telling me that this goes after like larger animals, maybe a dog, maybe a cat, maybe a human, something to that effect. Is it a slow moving process like that kudzu would be, or is it a process that it can physically, if I stood there and baited it with a piece of animal or a live animal, could I see it move? Could I see it dissolve?
Well, what happens is when these types of creatures, like a mouse, an aphid, or any of the other creature eats out the plant or gets into contact with it, they all fall on the side, dead, vines outside the plant severed. But it's gonna lack any type of anatomic structure besides the skin and the bones itself. So it dissolves things from the inside out. And depending on how big of the lateral term is, depends on how fast it's going to dissolve. This type of ivy is very dangerous to mankind. Very. And they, believe it or not, this is not the only place that they would have found it at. Several other areas have these plants, and they don't even know where they're at the time.
Crazy. That's crazy. You need to control that. That's crazy. That could be a problem. I can see. Man, we are quickly running out of it. Go ahead.
They do have control over these plants, but that doesn't mean that there are several areas out there that there isn't, because this has explained in many documents already. The planets that there are many types of flora and fauna out there on a paranormal skill that they have caught, they still haven't caught fully of. Paying attention to the dangers out there of what you're dealing with. Some of these animals, some of these plants are not normal.
Wow. I don't want time to get away from us. Is there anything you have to report from your positions with the Space Force and the Federation?
Yeah, I mean, what's this? I know we have a leak out to certain platforms and the stabilizing, even with this leak out about McDonald's and what they want to put demons into the picture, if you will. And even if this wasn't out there physically, the perspective of putting this on the net is outrageous. I don't care who had placed this. I mean, even McDonald's itself is an issue for mankind. Look at the food. Understand, even the French fries, the burgers, all of that. Most fast foods isn't good for mankind. But when we're putting this into the effect and we want to get kids thinking about more negative things, that's not going to help. Think about more healthy priorities.
You know, it's fascinating to me because I've often been a proponent and we've often talked about the dripping of things out. You gradually put things out there. And this is just another step in gradually upticking and sending things out there, normalizing things. If you say it enough time, it becomes part of our society. No, I don't buy any of that stuff. And again, I apologize. We're short on time here. Can we get into ET of the week?
Yeah. Well, so another thing I had to say was they're starting to put things out there for kids to write on these realistic reptile write-on things, floaties. Just, I mean, come on, reptiles. Hint, hint. All right, here we go. Well, but we're going to talk about ET of the week. The Ataracu Subspecies of Grey that have cooperation levels with Area 51. Just like other numerical gray subspecies. Pentagon, Secret Intelligence, and NASA, bioengineering laboratories that affiliate with DNA Furon human support codes. Ancient races have self-engineered to alternate better evolving periods between realms. Sand brown color skin to non-gender format. Clinical clones are evaluated through accurate terms. Clinical clones, what it means is by they actually have sub-Furon DNA formational codes upon several, well, let's just say most of mankind has that, if not all. And depending on the intact sequencing barrier, it's going to coordinate on which Furon DNA cell was evaluated through that term. But let me finish this, we'll get back to that. ParaAccellerated telepathic communication is standard, including Symetric Gateway Teleportation equals standards upon request. We're thinking about Area 51 now, and we're thinking about these species. And we have, I got a picture up there about a kid next to a gray that looks like an actual human and a gray mixed. Then you have these types of beings, Ataracu's, which is just like them, if not the same subspecies, similar, surrounding with officials in the background. Actual leaked footage of 51. Now everyone's thinking that Area 51 is a bad term or something that they're doing against ETs, or if you will, not an understanding plateau event. But have we ever thought about MIB personnel working alongside certain affiliated creatures and not against? I guarantee the construct of many things and many technologies out there now were not just maintained because of the human thought of it. It's something much deeper than that.
Crazy stuff, and we're rapidly running out of time. Just real quick here, 10 seconds. Good, bad, or indifferent to humans?
Well, consider neutral. And another thing is, when you have a baby, when humans have babies and they have an MRI, what the hell does that look like when it's on an early term?
Yeah.
It doesn't look human at all. It actually looks like a real extraterrestrial gray.
Wow. Powerful stuff, and we are out of time just like that. Hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Blue, excellent stuff in 49. I look forward to a big show 50.
Yes, absolutely, Mike.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.